Do you love me? Please, please, please say you love me. Please, please, please. Do I make you happy? What's up? This is Ray with Get Real Ray, a place and space for life and business tips from this creative soul to help you hopefully inspire you on your journey, or at the very least, like provide you with some laughs, right? If you're like, ooh, child, your life is messed up. I get it, you know, but maybe that's helpful in some way. And so let's get real. Okay, you guys. So I've kind of said on this channel before that it's really important to show up as you want to be seen. And recently, I showed up at the Canadian border. I was so proud of myself, y'all, okay? I said, I finished my first long house sit. Yay, me! It was just really, really such a rewarding feeling to see this couple come to their home, to see how excited the dogs were, to know that I was returning the home in like good condition and it was clean. And I just felt good about myself. I was like, you did it. You stayed on that island for 2 months. I did not leave the island. They didn't say I had to stay on the island, but I was busy working and dogs were cute and it was just too costly to leave the island to go through the things I wanted to. So I was like, you know what? Those things can wait. And so here I am, free from captivity. I was off the island and I got off the ferry without like any idea of where I was going. And I'm like, I need to find a room of some sort. Now, to be fair, initially I was planning to go to Vegas, see my mom, go ahead and like take care of some financial stuff. And I wound up not needing to make this an emergency trip to Vegas. So I was like, yay, okay, I'm going to breathe. I'm off the island. I don't have to do this long drive to Vegas. This is good. Things that I know I want to do. I know I want to get an oil check for my car. I know I want to get that done. And I know I want to buy some tofu at a reasonable price. And I know I want to take a few days just for me. Just for me. So cray. So I was on the Airbnb. I like pulled over on the side of the road, like a block away from the ferry to Vashon, pulled over, and I'm online and I'm looking at some different Airbnbs. And so then I said, well, you know what? Let me check out Priceline. Let me look at some stuff, you know. And so I was choosing between a hotel in Canada or a tent outside of a Buddhist retreat. And mind you, it had been raining off and on the past few days because this is up in Washington. So I'm thinking, okay, I do have a sleeping bag in my car. I can go sleep in that tent. However, the tent, like, it might just be on the ground. And then am I going to be comfortable folding up the blanket that I have in my car to put under me because the ground will be like lumpy, and then I'll have my my sleeping bag, but the temperature is gonna drop at night. So will it be warm enough? Is this gonna be comfortable? Does this make sense? On one hand, it could be like relaxing and soothing because you'll have the sign of the rain and you get to go join in on some meditations if you want to. I can walk around this amazing property, or I can go to this hotel where the room is spacious. Now you're like, Ray, why don't you just get a hotel in Seattle? Look, budget. And I needed something for a couple of days, ideally like 3 days. So this hotel room was spacious. It had great reviews and it just looked so welcoming. And the price was on point. I was like, oh my gosh, the price of this hotel room is literally the price of like one night in Seattle. I want to go to Canada. And so I booked the hotel and I started driving. I was so proud of myself, but I knew, okay, this is like a almost 7 hour drive. I stopped to get some gas. I just stopped to get like some snack mix at the grocery store. Had to stop again for some gas. Made it to the border. I took a picture, y'all, at the border because I was like, oh my goodness, that border crossing sign. It's in English and in French. Oh, I feel so special right now. I've been working on my French. So I'm just going to like try to read this sign and like not focus on the English translation side. Like what? Anyway. And so I pull up to the window and they start asking me questions, right? Just like the normal questions. And okay, mind you, it's like almost 10 o'clock at night. I've been driving for several hours. And I must have sounded like a fool because I'm moving. I know my license plates say one thing. There's the place I'm moving to, like in Vegas, but my license plates say a different state. So I don't want to not be honest about this because if I say one thing and they look at my license plate and be like, so where exactly do you live? I knew that was going to be a problem. So I was, honest. I was like, oh, this and that. And oh, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I teach online, And so anyway, he's like, oh, okay, well, just go ahead and pull on over. And I'm thinking, oh, man. Well, they're just going to check my bags and be like, go on your way, weirdo lady. Now, mind you, when I left this house that homeowners came home earlier than we had originally thought they were going to, but they said, oh, guess what? We're 30 minutes away. And I was like, oh, whoops. I thought I had 3 more hours, but it was totally fine because everything was clean. I just needed to my own personal laundry. I hadn't finished packing all of it. There were a few garments that I didn't have a chance to pack. So literally underwear, t-shirts thrown onto the front seat along with the trail mix that I got from the grocery store. And there was a computer monitor that I wanted to dispose of, but I haven't figured out how to dispose of it. I need to find a dumpster or something. Because remember, I was on this island, and at this particular island, the home didn't have garbage pickup. They take their garbage to the dump site themselves. So this is a whole big deal. So I'm like, oh my goodness. Okay. But it's 10 o'clock at night now at this border, and I'm not really thinking about the fact that my car probably looks crazy. The trunk was really organized. I was so proud of the trunk. And the back seat, really organized. I was so proud of that. But I can see from the Border Patrol person's perspective, he might be curious, so you're coming for 3 days, but you have 5 suitcases, a keyboard, an air fryer, and underwear on the front seat. Okay, I'm hoping that man did not see my underwear. But anyway, he didn't earn the right to see my underwear. The car looked part organized, part chaos. And so this Border Patrol guy, before he even looked at my car, he was already giving me, how should I put it? Not friendly vibes. That's how I'm going to put it. I said, oh, well, because this other guy was like, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a digital nomad. I teach online. Well, what do you teach? And I really hate this question because it's so simple to just give one answer, but that's really not true, So, I used to be like, oh, I teach dance. But I just don't, right? I just said I teach a number of subjects, and I started listing the subjects. And so anyway, I did not realize that, I thought, well, I've got my paid for room, this should be good, right? I'm not really thinking about the fact that, they're worried I won't leave. I just didn't even think about that. And I had some cash in my pocket, but I was getting paid the next day. And so I already kind of had my snacks. I didn't need any additional food. I was like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to pay those bills online. I'm going to figure out what to do with this computer monitor and figure out what stuff do I not need for my next house sit? What stuff can I just donate or get rid of? But lo and behold, I still had all this stuff in the car. So this man was looking at me and, he was basically just looking at me so are you here for drugs or something? Are you here because you are a paid sex worker or something? Because I said, no, I'm just here for 3 days and then I'm going to come back in April to see a friend. And also because my car was chaotic, he's like, are you, looking at me are you just trying to move here? What is wrong with you, you crazy American person? So this man gave me so many different speeches. I found it offensive. And I told him, like, I'm not here to argue with you, dude. I didn't call him dude. I said, sir, I'm not here to argue with you. I'm just mentioning the research I did online. I'm not concerned about the next trip. I just want to discuss this trip, this 3-day trip that I've paid for my hotel room, and I've got a few more hours to drive. I'm tired, right? And when he went out to check the car, he came back in and he was just like, there's just stuff there. Like, he looked at me like, how dare you bring all this stuff? Like, I can't even inspect your car because there's so much stuff. And I felt so many things at that moment. I felt a bit ashamed. I was very tired. So there was this kind of level of shock, like, is that a problem? Because I've seen so many Border Patrol shows on YouTube. Shout out to the Border Patrol of Australia, YouTube. I love watching that channel. I had to cut back, y'all. But anyway, so basically I was allowed to withdraw my application and basically turned away. And thankfully, like, on the US side, the guy was really nice. He's like, oh, why didn't you get to go to Canada? Oh, yeah, you don't want to bring a lot of stuff, and yeah, you got to show that you have money. And I'm just like, well, it's my first time trying to use my passport. It was impromptu. It was for the moment. So anyway, I started with show up how you want to be seen. And, after a good night's sleep at an Airbnb, well, okay, that particular night, I did not sleep good in an Airbnb, but that's another story. I'm not even going to go into what happened after I left the border. But I will say that the next day, when I managed to find an Airbnb and sleep in a bed, yay! It kind of hit me. It hit me that I had showed up, even though I was clean, and I kept thinking, well, my car's organized in the back. I realized that I had showed up in this, for me, it was like an impromptu, like, spur of the moment, like, wee, fun time. But the fact that I had just all this stuff on the front seat, it was not me showing up as my best self. It was me showing up kind of like I'm just some disorganized, fly by the seat of your pants, hippy dippy, oh man, it's all cool. Not that there's anything wrong with that lifestyle, but I was not even thinking about the fact that I would have to show financial ability to be there. I just was thinking, oh, I know you can go and apply at the border because I remember that in my research, and this hotel room looks great. I wasn't even thinking about the visa fee. Wasn't thinking at all, okay? So, what does that say about my brain? So, I then, put myself in the situation where I had to call the people I was going to connect with in April and, update them basically like, hey, I might not be able to keep our agreement for me to, meet up with you because I had trouble just for like a personal vacation. And so now I know that they're going to be definitely asking me lots of questions and inspecting me and just making sure that I'm not like some crazy person. And so I also found myself, trying to explain to these people what had happened and trying not to sound like a total just idiot disaster while telling the story. And I initially, before talking to these people, I felt like this is a burden and I want to talk to somebody, but I also don't want to burden my friends, right? It's one thing to talk to somebody because it relieves my stress, but the goal is not to provide others stress or say carry my burden with me. It's really, I don't want anyone to carry my burden with me. I want for others to just hear me. And just that, I guess for me, it's the load is lifted knowing that there is some kind of acknowledgement of, yes, that did happen to you. That's it. That's it, right? I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't even need advice or anything like that. Just, yes, that did happen to you. And so in the immediate aftermath, I called a newer friend and I was very hesitant, but I'm like, okay, I know she's going to be awake. And I think I'll be able to tell her this and not have her feel sorry for me or stressed out, or, you know, be like, do you need money? Do you need something? Like, just to hear me out and just to acknowledge my words. For me, at times, not sharing the really tough moments can make it seem like those moments didn't exist. And I do believe that there can be peace in just acknowledging the existence and not just, I guess for me, it's kind of, you know, if we don't acknowledge that these things happen, then it's like they didn't matter. And that, for me, becomes a very slippery slope, right? If we don't talk about the atrocities by various governments, if we don't talk about the wars of the past, the criminal acts of the past, if we don't talk about these things, it's like they didn't happen. And then what's to prevent those things from recurring in the future? Maybe even worse. Yeah. And so I also want to be mindful, of course, because the goal is not to, all these things, bad things happen to me, and don't you agree these were horrible, and I'm such the victim, and all these things, right? We don't need this. This is not the goal. This is not productive. So for me, I always feel like it's just a fine line. It's kind of like having, you know, have you had that friend who just complains about everything? Oh my gosh, the service here is the worst. The service here is the worst. I don't even know why we come here. I mean, the food is, my fries are cold, the service here is the worst, and the music's too loud. Just like, okay, and how was your complaining gonna solve anything? Do you want to take your complaints to the manager? Should we go somewhere else? Do you need something else? How can we solve this right now? Because these complaints are not solving things. On the other hand, you may have also had that friend where something just horrible always seems to be happening to them. Like, yeah, my boyfriend broke up with me, and I found out that he was sleeping with my cousin, and then my boss fired me, and then my puppy got run over by an elephant. You're like, dang, what? Yo, you need better choices in life. I don't know if you need to pick better pets or like better men or better job. I don't know, just better choices. Like, how can so much trauma and drama be happening to one person? There's always one person like that though. Okay, so I just don't want to be that person. I don't want to be that person, and I don't want to hang around that person. So anyway, I called my friend, and the conversation was really interesting. This was, for me, I had to pause and be like, is this a first, or is this just, it hasn't been a while since I've had this kind of interaction? But it felt positive because I shared and she shared, and I shared and she shared. And she was just like, yeah, that happened to you. Well, what happened to me was, but there was no, she wasn't dismissing my words, my ideas, my experience, because that has certainly happened when someone just kind of dismisses it and they just talk about it. She wasn't dismissing anything. She was acknowledging the situation, accepting it, and then telling me about, you know, her related experience. And then we talked about what traumas and dramas she'd been going through recently. And then I carved out mental space to hear her and to acknowledge her. And just even saying this right now, I'm like, you know what? I need to follow up with her on some of those things that she expressed that was going on with her. I want to make sure she feels supported and that I heard her. That's really important to me. I value this friendship. That's how much I value this friendship. And she's a newer friend, which is so crazy because sometimes, I don't know, maybe it's my old age. I just feel like I make newer friends, but I feel like what I can share is limited just because maybe we've only got like that one thing in common. And when we learn more about each other, we realize there's nothing else in common, right? And so, yeah, I want to make sure she feels heard and acknowledged. Um, and all of this whole thing, right? It was a really positive conversation with her, and I really appreciate it, because when I hung up the phone, I was just like, okay, so she actually never told me what to do, never suggested what to do, never offered to do anything. And I feel like she didn't take my burden. She didn't offer to hold the weight for me. She just heard me out. And that alone has lifted my burden. That was really, really cool. Yeah. And it also had me thinking, like, how can I be a better friend, a better listener, and make sure I give that same quality to my friends? I hear you out. Yeah. Sometimes I have a tendency to be like, oh, well, have you tried? Have you thought of? I see this is upsetting you. Have you considered? Right. And I'm mindful of that. I don't want for them to be like, I can't tell her anything because she's going to tell me what to do. And I don't want to, be the unlicensed therapist. But I've also had lots of experiences, and I'm always happy to share what I've learned. And maybe I've learned something that may be of use. But here's the thing. Always trying to be helpful. Be getting me in trouble. So sharing this information with these individuals I was supposed to connect with, different responses. One person was just like, oh, okay, well, thanks for letting me know. This is what I can do to take care of myself. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry. And it was fine, And she sounded fine. She sounded like she's going to be able to get her situation resolved. And there's really nothing I can do for her at this point, right? We discussed the options, and it's just like, okay, got it. Yeah, that sounds sucks. And it also sounds like it's just a little risky for us to wait until, the 2 days before I'm supposed to meet her. And the other conversation I had was, we're so sorry this happened to you, but also this, well, what are we going to do? And so though we came up with a game plan in the moment, and we, I continued to do my research. Hopefully they did their research. I, was having these ideas like, oh, you know what? They can also try this. And I sent the messages like, you could try this, and maybe you want to try this. And I called like, hey, maybe you try this. And one of the responses I got was, well, I know we're not going to want to do that. And I thought to myself, well, huh? Like, I feel like I'm over here running a marathon trying to make all this work out. And I'm still over here trying to make this trip happen for myself. But, huh? Like, that's something very small and simple you could do and keep you from having to cancel things. And so when I found myself thinking it over, I was like, wait, here I am trying to fix things, help, and yet my exposure was great, right? I could wind up without a place to stay for a couple of months. That would be crazy. Now, that's like an extreme example. But I could wind up at the last minute trying to like hustle and find something. I can wind up being out a lot of money because, paying for tickets and all these things. And the hours that it'll take to drive back over there. So I understood the comments of what are we going to do. That is totally normal, especially when you just get like bad news, right? But I also found myself going, what's your backup plan, right? Like, what if I broke my leg? I was in a car accident. What would you do? What's the backup plan? Now, mind you, we don't always think in life to have a backup plan for many situations. But this whole experience reminded me just how important it is to have that backup plan. And y'all, I made a video on have a backup plan in your business, have a backup plan in your life. But I never thought I would be in this situation where I'm feel like as part of my interactions with homeowners, I should be thinking about what's their backup plan. So I will do another video on things that I've learned from this whole attempt to go international. Yo, I'm honest, okay? Because on YouTube, people make it seem all so simple. Oh, well, oh, you have to, and this, the online like chat groups, just go on vacation. This one group I used to be, it was like, oh, you guys, you just change your profile to the city you want, and then you book the house sit, and then you go, and it's so easy. But it's not. It's really not. People don't talk about the fact that you have to do a lot of research to make sure you have the money. It's not just about a place to stay. You have to have the money, and you have to abide by those countries' laws. So some countries, if you say, oh, yeah, come crash on my couch, and it's no big deal, there's no big deal, and I'm like, oh, you want some help with your garden? Sure, okay, no big deal. And another country is just like, what? You helped your friend in their garden? How do we know that you're not working for your friend, right? It's like, what? No, my friend was just working in the garden. I thought I would offer to help. So you really want to make sure that you understand the limitations and what are the risks as well. For my next international, I know that I'm going to want to go to the place first and then look at, house sits and whatnot. But already have things in place. Now, I will say one downside is flights and tickets. You want to make sure you have all those things arranged, and with house sitting, you don't have this guarantee that you're going to get a house sit. So it really is a lot of work. You have to be very strategic in how you arrange for an international house sit. But this video is not about international house sitting. This video is about the drama, the trauma, and the chaos. I do not want my tombstone, I've said this before, I do not want my tombstone to say, she tried so hard. Like, no. And so, anyhow, before I jumped into let me fix things mode, I did take a moment to look at a checklist I made for myself. And this checklist I made to be applied towards business things. So business decisions, really. If I'm having feelings about, should I take that work? Then I need to look at the checklist. And the checklist is designed to be very matter of fact, black and white. I wanted to put a maybe column, like, no. Yes or no, make a decision. And sometimes, I'll say to students, cat or dog, like pick. I don't want both. I don't want iguana. You literally have to pick between two words, cat or dog. And parents will, let them type in both or give this long answer. And I'm like, thinking, parent, get out of my classroom. Because even though you may be thinking, well, my child is an individual and we don't have to choose. We can express ourselves in the way we want. There are times in life where it's literally cat or dog, yes or no. There's no if and what. It's either you're inside or outside. You're on fire or you're not. I know that last one was weird, but sometimes in life, it's black and white. There's no gray. There's no one or the other. It's not whatever you want. No, you have to legit just make a decision. Like one of those game shows. You're either in it and you're going to play the next round, or go back to your seat, take your $100. You don't get to stick around and try for the $1 million. Right? We don't get as much time as we want. We don't get to do whatever we want. And so I went through this checklist, and just about everything was like, no. Like, this will cause me stress. This does not necessarily benefit me financially. And so the only two things I kept going, I decided, let me try, were because one of the questions was, is this a learning opportunity? Yes, I could actually learn something from this. And I forgot the other question. But because of those two questions, I was like, okay, before I just say, nope, sorry, can't do it, You have plenty of time to make other arrangements. Let me see if I could test myself and prove to myself that I said I was going to do this trip and I'm going to make this trip happen for me. And I did so much research. I was like, oh my gosh, there are these aerial schools that I can go to. And oh, this French school, this is really reasonably priced. I can go to this French school. I can go to this aerial school. It's a little far away from that house, but I think I can figure it out. This hike looks beautiful. These waterfalls look amazing. You know, so I had this really good plan and I was getting excited about the trip. And I was loving this plan. But there's still this doubt of, oh gosh, I don't want to do this the wrong way, this trip the wrong way. And so when I was relaying this crazy story to my mom, and I didn't tell her like all the details, but I told her a good majority of it. I felt so bad because she was like smiling, so upbeat. And then by the end of my story, she was like, okay, bye. And I'm like, oh no, like, oh my goodness, I stressed you out. I felt so bad, right? And so again, I don't want to have you carry my burden. I'm just acknowledging, just sharing, right? So I'm still trying to figure that out. Like, how can I make it so that you don't feel like I don't want to trigger your stuff. But I reached a point, there was something she said where I was like, and then after I hung up, I thought, yeah, she's kind of got a point. And it made me think of my list again. And that column of, is this going to stress you out? Yeah. Right? And so then I thought, well, how much am I sacrificing and willing to sacrifice in order to make this happen? And at this point, am I willing to sacrifice these things to make this happen because it's in my best interest or in someone else's best interest? And so it went from, yes, there's something I can learn, but there needs to be another addition to this questionnaire, meaning, is it in my best interest to learn this lesson in this manner? That's the ticket right there, you guys. Is this something that I can learn from? And is this the best way for me to learn this lesson right now? Can I learn this lesson some other way? Actually, one of the other questions was, can I learn this lesson some other way? Yes, I absolutely can. And that really should be the clue to like, okay, so if it's going to cause you stress and you can learn lessons some other way, then find the other way. But anyway, I did like the idea of challenging myself. But this also reminded me of Gretchen Rubin's Tendencies quiz. And if you don't know who Gretchen Rubin is, I recently discovered her podcast and her blog. One of her podcasts, she was talking, there was like a co-host or whatever, and I was not feeling it. I was like, I don't like this. But I do like her blog, and she has like some fun little interviews with guests on her blog. So I'm assuming these are from a podcast or whatever. So anyway, I liked that. So when I took her quiz, I'm looking at my results of the quiz as I'm saying this. So when I took her quiz, my tendency is to be an obliger. What is an obliger? Obligers meet our expectations, but struggle to meet inner expectations, right? I said I was going to be there. I'm going to be there. But inside, I said, stop committing to things that are putting you out of your way. They're costing you too much time or too much money. Obligers make terrific colleagues, leaders, family members, and friends. Oh, thank goodness I'm a good friend, y'all. Call the peeps. Let them know I'm a good friend. Others rely on them. But it can be difficult for them to meet their aims for themselves. Ray, make sure you don't spend money on anything other than the bills you said you were going to pay. That's it. And here I am like, okay, so I can buy this ferry ticket. Chill. Others rely on them, but it can be difficult for them to meet their aims for themselves. My aim, it was to be debt-free by this age. This is not the case. So now my aim is to have at least 5 bills paid off before the end of this year. Okay. In the absence of external accountability. So other people holding me accountable. And this is very true for me. I've known this for a long time. Why do I work out? Because my students expect me to come to class and guide them. But what am I gonna do when I officially retire? Do I stop moving? Do I stop trying? So I have to create the self-discipline of holding myself accountable. I just have to. I was going to actually start a business, a women's accountability group, and I thought we could all get so much done. This will be great. But I had to put a pause on that because I'm like, wait, you got all these other businesses that you aren't putting 110% in right now. And you started these businesses just to really allow you to create the financial stability necessary to pursue your career in the arts. Why are you not being artistic? What's happening? What's going on? Yeah. So external accountability needs to be more internal accountability, not just beating myself up, but really putting myself in check. Oh, the things. Obligers depend on external accountability with consequences such as deadlines. I got to finish that tomorrow. Late fees. Ooh, man, I didn't pay that bill on time. Or fear of letting other people down. And that's the last one. Fear of letting other people down. Oh my gosh, I feel so bad. This person is freaked out because of my mistake, my misjudgment. Though as innocent as I feel it was, because I did the research, I just wasn't thinking. I feel horrible. You know, in my mind, I think these people, I hope they don't have to cancel their whole trip or spend so much money on, pet care. I was like, wait a minute. Why am I going to the worst case scenario? That is literally like saying, I forgot to get the milk from the grocery store and now the dairy farm is going to go out of business. What? No, my one lapse in purchasing some milk will not close a dairy farm. That's just not how economics work. Okay, so maybe that dairy farmer has less business and that one extra sale was going to help them go by a little bit longer, but my not buying milk that moment is not why the dairy farm closed. It's because the dairy farm did not have enough business, a backup plan in and of itself, right? Dairy farmer has a backup plan. So even if our sales are low this month, we can still keep going because we got the backup plan. We got some chickens over here that we started, have fresh eggs for people to come. People just come by. I mean, they're not just going to suddenly be like, whoa, now we're a poultry farm also. No, they're like, yo, we do dairy, but just so happens we got a few chickens over here, and so people passing by to get some fresh eggs, or we're a dairy farm, but we also made arrangements to give our baby calves to the butcher down the way or something. I don't know. Look, I'm vegan, okay? I don't want to talk about the animals no more. So, obliger. And I remember driving back from rehearsals, and there was the stage manager and my two castmates in the car with me, and we were driving into the city, and I was giving them a little lecture, a little talking about how one must draw a line when it comes to working in the arts and not allowing others to take advantage and to ask for or demand or assume one will give more than what is contractually necessary to do the job. I mean, one artist was putting themselves in physical pain to do the job. Meanwhile, was very aware that no one else was being asked to do the things that they were being asked to do. And, it was just not a good situation, right? I'm literally bending over backwards, and everyone gets a break but me. This makes no sense, right? I now have to go have extra doctor's appointments because I've been doing this work. Yeah. And I wasn't too thrilled that for this production, I didn't see anywhere in my contract that I was going to have to move set pieces. And I thought, oh, no. I'm sorry. I'm at a point in my career where I don't do that anymore. I shouldn't have to be doing this. But, being non-union, you don't really get that choice unless you make that arrangement ahead of time. So after that production, I joined the union. I was like, nope, never again. But yeah, it's not that I'm above the work. It's just that this wasn't part of the arrangement, and this is labor intensive and time intensive, and sorry, but no, right? You know, if someone cooks for you and then says, hey, thanks for cooking the meal, don't forget to wash all the dishes, take out the trash, and restock the fridge, that person will be like, no, you just hired me to cook the dinner. Don't think you really, our agreement wasn't that I would do all this other stuff. Like, I cooked the dinner, you have a dishwashing machine, or maybe you hire someone to do the dishes, or we make that arrangement beforehand, like whatever dish I use, I'll cook and return your place back to the state it was before I arrived. But otherwise, Bruce, right? So anyway, I know that my tendency to help others is strong, and I thought my checklist had allowed me to really reduce that tendency to put things in check. Check. But this recent experience reminded me that while my list was helpful and is good, it is a living, breathing, growing document. And so I need to make some changes so that when that obliger tendency kicks in, this list will help me just nip it in the butt right away. And know right away, not only will it cause me stress, but I can learn this lesson in another way. And it is not benefiting me in this moment. It's just not. And I think I want to add something about what is the level, on like a scale of 1 to 10. What is the concern or care by the other party? But maybe not. Maybe that's really making that external. Yeah, now that I said it, I'm like, that's external. Like me being concerned with someone else's level of care or interest probably shouldn't really be a factor. So I gotta think that one out. But I need to add something else to this list that will just be a stop, like a hard stop for me. Not a yellow slow down, but a hard stop. So anyway, that is that. I definitely recommend checking out Gretchen Rubin's tendency quiz. I took one of her other quizzes. I think it's like productivity, like how to get started. No, where should you focus your happiness right now? Like, if you want to be happy, where should you focus right now? I didn't really love that quiz so much, but I've also already done like a lot of work on being happy and priorities and organizing priorities and where to focus. So I don't think that quiz was really for me. I think it was just, I was kind of bored and I said, I just want to take a quiz. But I should have just been practicing my Japanese or my French, right? Instead of being like, let me waste some time playing around with a little quiz. And so you guys, are you an obliger? Are you someone who just does whatever to make sure that everyone's happy? Be careful. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay, my friends. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I'm going to put the link to her quiz in the comments or whatever, because I don't know, you might like it. It's free. So don't look at me like that. It's free. You ain't got to pay. Okay, with that being said, till next time, peace.